If a gaslighting demonic mind virus infiltrated your brain with the ultimate goal of infecting others through the trauma of your demise, what would you do? As if watching someone brutally subtract himself from the gene pool wasn't already bad enough, our hero suddenly finds herself facing the same gruesome fate. However, it seems the mysterious forces at play aren't content with simply taking her out of the picture. Instead, they feel the need to make her last few days on Earth a waking nightmare. And without knowing for sure who or what she can really trust, it'll be a miracle if she can figure out what's actually going on before it's too late. I'm going to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and whether there's any possible way to beat the smiling demon in Smile 2. Joel is almost out of time. It's been 5 days since he received the smile curse from watching his ex-girlfriend go full-on monk mode. And judging by all the weird, freaky popping up everywhere, I'd say it won't be too long until he does something similar. After all, back when he and Rose were looking over previous cases, there wasn't a single instance of somebody lasting longer than a week post-infection, with some even checking out in as little as 4 days. Knowing this, I gotta wonder why our guy would have waited this long to put a plan into motion. Although, in all fairness, he did get screwed out of some pretty important information going in. You see, back when it was Rose's turn on the chopping block, she interviewed a survivor who managed to weasel out of his predicament by taking someone else's life instead. This resulted in the curse being transmitted to a witness who would then go on to opt out and keep the streak alive. Unfortunately for Joel, his ex never bothered sharing this revelation before lighting up. But all the same, it wouldn't have been all that difficult for him to piece it together on his own. I mean, the man is a homicide detective, and he was also the one who tracked down the lone survivor in the first place. So it wouldn't exactly require a huge leap in logic for him to immediately arrive at the right conclusion. Oh, what's that? The only person who didn't savagely delete his own save file after being exposed is currently serving life for murder. Gee, I wonder what he must have done differently. Couple this with the fact that Joel knew it was the witness who went on to continue the chain, and there's really no plausible way that he shouldn't have figured this out on the spot. Hey, nerds, I understand we probably don't agree on everything, but even in today's highly polarized political climate, it warms my heart to know that there's at least one thing most of us have in common. We all love ads. There's nothing I love more than being constantly bombarded by banal, soulless sales pitches 24 hours a day. It's like a big, soft blanket being draped across my nose and mouth while hot cocoa's being poured on top. Delicious. However, despite the clear and obvious benefits of non-stop psychological manipulation, it seems there's still some people out there who don't enjoy drowning in ads all day. And if you happen to be one of them, today's sponsor can probably help. I'm talking about Pi.org. Pi is an ad block browser extension that ruthlessly strips the ads from all your favorite websites, including YouTube and Twitch, creating a seamless user experience completely free from interruption. Who would want that? However, it's not all doom and gloom, as those of us who love digital marketing can still opt in to earn rewards when viewing certain ads. That's like being paid to go to the amusement park. And if you happen to be a content creator like me, the Pi Creator Network will whitelist your channel, ensuring opted-in viewers can still watch ads on your channel while earning themselves a nice slice of the action. However, there's more to Pi.org than just ad block. My favorite feature is their companion shopping extension that gives me cash back and automatically applies coupons at more than 10,000 online stores. You see, most cashback and shopping extensions aren't compatible with ad blockers, thus preventing you from receiving cash back. But with Pi, all your earnings from both the ad block and shopping extensions are properly accounted for and compiled in one easy-to-access location. So now, not only can I rake in cash from seeing the ads that I want to see, I can head on over to Bombas, throw some socks on my cart, and boom, coupons applied. I'm literally saving money and earning money just by doing my usual thing. So if all that sounds good to you, head on over to pi.org/nerdexplains or hit the link in the description and then click the button to add their ad block extension to your browser. From there, you can do the same for their shopping extension, pin them both to your toolbar, and you're ready to go. Thanks for helping to support the channel, and a big thanks to Pi for sponsoring this video. In that case, The lawman would have had at least 24 hours prior to his own infection to noodle on a contingency, should the worst come to pass. And I gotta believe that the very first thing that would come to mind is finding a local lowlife he could use to take his place. Now, credit where it's due. That is exactly what Joel appears to be working on right now. But come on, it took you 5 days to find a suitable candidate in New York of all places? Just poke through your open cases until you find one where the lead suspect is a frequent flyer and hope for the best. Sure, it's not exactly what you would call ethical, but either way we're talking about extrajudicial assassination, so we might as well pick our target as quickly as possible to maximize our chances of beating the curse. And besides, the longer we wait, the more likely it is that we'll totally lose control and send it off with someone who's never heard a fly, which is, of course, the whole point of going after criminals. As for how we go about it, the survivor told Rose it needs to be as messy as possible to dial up the trauma factor, but like I previously mentioned, she decided to keep all that to herself. Still, given the particularly brutal nature of every death associated with the curse, I think it's something that Joel could reasonably deduce on his own. Although, just to be safe, I would study the survivor's case carefully and replicate it as closely as I could to ensure that I got the same results. Naturally, any rational person would want to stage the attack on day one to buy themselves some breathing room. But hey, let's give Joel the benefit of the doubt. You know, maybe he just had a lot of paperwork or something. Who knows? All that matters now is that the intended target just came back from a coffee run, giving our guy the opportunity to sneak in close and go for the disarm. Gotta say, it was pretty risky for Joel to make his play right out in the open like this, as the man's car made quite a bit of noise while he was pulling in. We find out later that these guys deal in narcotics, meaning they're probably a bit paranoid when it comes to people showing up. Granted, it seems likely that they were expecting Man Bun to roll in with the PSLs at some point, but even so, you would think that someone would take a second to peek through the blinds just to make sure it was really him. That being said, they are the kind of idiots that would bring a bright red sports car to a rundown old house for the purpose of conducting illegal business. So OPSEC probably isn't their strong suit. Come to think of it, that's probably why Joel decided to go after them in the first place. However, if that's true, I really gotta wonder how in the hell it took him 5 whole days to track these guys down. Whatever the case, the detective orders his mark to keep quiet as he forces him through the front door. It is here that we find the ne'er-do-well's unsuspecting brother awaiting a delicious frappuccino. Little does he realize, they'll be drinking Bloody Marys. Zdrovia. Well, that was fun. Just one problem though. It seems in his haste to share the love, Joel forgot about one very important thing, this being leverage. Or rather the fact that he no longer has any after icing baby bro. Predictably, this results in the mobster grabbing his piece off the coffee table and trading shots with our hero, because of course it would. Seriously, what kind of police officer would let the obvious threat actor keep a loaded pistol within arm's reach for any amount of time? And it's not like he might have missed it or anything. Dude saw the guy going for it and was just like, don't. Don't what? Shoot without an open sight line? The second he spotted that thing, he should have ordered old Chrome Dome to cuff himself and toss it out the fucking window. Now, not only is Joel wearing a bullet in his arm, the prospective recipient of the curse is currently breathing out of his rib cage. And since it would be impossible to know for sure whether Boris caught the ugly before checking out, it seems our guy's doomed to live out the rest of his days in crippling anxiety. Or is he? As the dust begins to settle, Joel is suddenly startled by the sound of movement behind him. Turns out the brothers weren't just hanging around this dump for the atmosphere. They were conducting official business. And wouldn't you know it, their lingering customer stuck around just long enough to get an eyeful as Igor left the building. So yeah, sucks to be that guy. All I can say is that it's a good thing that Lewis wasn't someone more capable, or else it would probably be Joel who's choking on his own borscht right now. Gotta clear those corners, man. Oh well, nothing to do now but leave this poor sap to his unspeakable fate and do our best to forget this whole mess ever happened. Easier said than done, sure. But absolutely nothing of value can be gained by sticking around to bawl our eyes out.
Fuck this whole thing up. It's not meant for you.
Okay, well, who was it meant for then? because you knew good and God well going in that the curse wasn't gonna stop with what's-his-name. Like it or not, when you pass this thing on, you are ruining everyone's day. It's just a matter of time. And regardless of whether it chewed through the entire crime syndicate first, it would have inevitably found its way back into the general population. All that happened here is that the timetable got moved up by a week or two. So how about we stop pretending like we were out to save the world and get while the getting's good? But alas, Joe's heartfelt apology takes up just enough time for backup to arrive, forcing him to retreat deeper into the house in the hopes of finding another way out. Yeah, this is definitely not where you want to be right now. Between the 3 Ruskies that rolled in, they could easily keep the place surrounded while we waited for reinforcements. And even if they're stupid, I gotta believe the moment you start smashing your way through the AC unit, at least one of them's gonna run straight outside and wait for you to poke your head out. Fact is, the only way Joel could have realistically gotten out of this jam is if he seized the initiative and opened fire the moment he saw them. If he's lucky and good, he might have been able to drop 1 or 2 of them before they even had a chance to draw. At the same time, these guys didn't know that he was armed, so the sudden shock of incoming fire could have potentially been enough to send them running for cover, while our guy swung around to the back and fled into the nearby woods. Now, under different circumstances, I'd say we should drop back inside after firing our first burst, reload, and wait for them to either funnel in or flee the scene entirely. But if they don't do either of those things, we would be completely screwed for the reasons I mentioned earlier. Plus, even if the cops are 30 minutes away, eventually they're going to show up. And if Joel is still here when that happens, he's basically guaranteed to spend the rest of his life in prison. No. Running might be risky, but it's honestly our best option. And besides, at this distance, the chances of a novice shooter hitting a moving target with a pistol while also being shot at himself are pretty much 0. I mean, statistically speaking, neither party would hit anything in this situation, and I'm totally fine with that as long as we can get away. Ultimately, Joel somehow manages to break out of the house without getting dosed, but while he might have outsmarted his pursuers, he forgot one of the most critical elements of everyday survival. You always gotta look both ways. Well, technically, he still beat the curse. That said, I feel like Joel could have gotten away scot-free with only a few adjustments to his master plan. Let's rewind back to life real quick and break it all down. First and foremost, he shouldn't have waited for Igor to come back with the drinks before launching his attack. After all, if Joel had been watching the house long enough to know that they were already there, it would have been better for him to make his play while they were at half strength. Not only would this have allowed him to subdue the brothers one at a time, he could have also avoided the potentially disastrous move of intercepting Igor out in the open. So anyway, once we saw Igor drive off, we would approach the front door with our weapon hidden under our jacket to minimize public suspicion. From there, we would quietly try the knob to see if it's unlocked. If it is, like we saw in the movie, then we're pretty much golden. But otherwise, we would have to either find another way in or risk going loud and cranking up the difficulty. In the latter case, I might try shouting, "Police, search warrant," on the off chance that it discourages any resistance. But either way, we should probably be prepared for a serious fight, which Joel most definitely was not. Even something as simple as a high candela weapon light could be enough to stop Boris in his tracks if we catch him by surprise. But I'd want to get my hands on as much police equipment as possible before I even considered attempting something like this. I'm talking a short-barreled patrol carbine or submachine gun, NIJ level 4 ceramic body armor, an Axon Taser 7, and while we're at it, why not tear gas and a gas mask? Sure, it wouldn't dissipate by the time Igor came back, but it would definitely keep Big Brother occupied long enough for us to get him properly restrained. At that point, we could just go back outside and ambush the other one on his way into the front door. It's still not great, but I'd feel much better about going that route, knowing that Boris was already incapacitated. Unfortunately, it's not likely that Joel would be able to round up my entire Amazon wish list on such short notice. So no matter how we get in, we'll have to make up for any gaps in our arsenal through good old-fashioned speed, surprise, and violence of action. Ideally, we'll make entry through the unlocked door, move quickly towards the smell of vodka and cigarette smoke, get Boris at gunpoint, and then order him to restrain himself using handcuffs or zip ties. After that, we'll reinforce his restraints ourselves, duct tape his mouth shut, and wait. Of course, there's no way Jill could have known for sure that Igor was going out for coffee, so we'll probably have to lean on his brother to make sure. I mean, it certainly stands to reason that he wasn't planning on abandoning the guy, but either way, we can always force Boris to get on the phone and have him come back. At that point, it's just a matter of springing the ambush from around the corner once Igor shows up, and then forcing them to decide which one gets to wear the necktie. Simple as. Plus, if everything goes right, we would be out of there before the other guys ever even showed up, thereby allowing us to flee the scene with minimal witnesses. However, there's still a problem our plan does not account for, this being Lewis. Obviously, Jill had no idea that he was there, which means we wouldn't either. And funny enough, the fact that our guy forgot to clear that corner actually worked out in his favor, as having to wrangle up multiple threats on opposite sides of the room could have given Boris the distraction he needed to potentially turn the tables. As for us, we'll want to be thorough in our sweep, which means we'll probably spot Lewis right off the bat. Now, given Igor just left, I think that there's a pretty solid chance that they'll mistake our intrusion for him forgetting something. And that should be enough for us to catch them both off guard, read the situation, and act accordingly. Worst case scenario, we smoke Boris on the spot and use Lewis since he doesn't appear to be armed. And yes, I recognize that there's still a major risk associated with this plan. A more paranoid Boris might grab his gun the second he hears the door open and come out blasting, at which point we'd have no other choice but to waste him and figure something out. That said, Jill could have just as easily been spotted and fired on out in the driveway. Igor could have done something stupid and eaten a bullet while being held hostage. And Boris could have disregarded his brother's life entirely and started shooting anyway. After all, Jill made the point that these guys murdered an innocent woman and child the previous year. So who's to say they aren't a couple psychopaths who'd gladly sacrifice one another if it meant getting away? Point is, neither option's perfect, but I think my approach cuts out a few of the more troublesome variables. Still, if it were me in this situation, I would have gone a different route from the very beginning. I mean, what exactly would Jill have done if Igor had never gone for coffee in the first place? No way he was actually planning on taking them both 2-on-1. No, if I had my choice, I would have gone with a solo scumbag instead. We would start by infiltrating the target's home while he wasn't around, ideally through non-destructive means like picking a lock or finding an open window. From there, we would wait for him to come back and get settled in, at which point we would ambush the and get him properly restrained. Of course, there's no telling whether our mark might come home with company, so we'll have to plan accordingly. One extra person would probably be okay, and it would even come with the added bonus of providing a suitable witness. Any more than that, however, and we might be overwhelmed. So we'll definitely want to have an escape route planned ahead of time, just in case it's poker night. Now, let's say the dude comes home by himself. That certainly makes it easier, but we'd still be missing a critical component. So once we've got our man wrapped up, we'll use his phone to order a pizza and ambush the driver upon arrival. Oh, but nerd, you say? Isn't the whole point to spare innocent lives? Well, no. That was Joel's plan. My plan is to save my own life as quickly as humanly possible. Besides, we've already established that the curse will find its way back to the Normiverse no matter what. So, don't worry though. We're not gonna hurt the pizza guy. We're just gonna infect him with a horrible mind virus that'll force him to choose between harming others and losing his own life. Unfortunately for both of these people, I just finished reviewing Terrifier 3, so whatever we do will almost certainly require stock footage of cute baby animals. At any rate, once the deed is done, we have a decision to make. Sure, we could leave the poor delivery driver high and dry while we GTFO to a cabin in rural Wyoming. But if we're feeling generous, we could take down the address from his driver's license and send him a little care package. Basically, it would include detailed information explaining his predicament. Things like what he's gonna see, how much time he has, and most importantly, how he can get rid of it. Kinda like the dude in It Follows. Only problem is, we'll have to stop short of identifying potential targets for him to eliminate, as this would likely tip off investigators that the package came from a local police officer. But aside from that, we should be good. Then again, if the newly infected discovers the chain leading to Rose, he might be able to connect it with us. Yeah, on second thought, dude's done for. But hey, that's just me. If you're the kind of person who still wants to help, let me know how you'd go about it down in the comments. So, getting back to the story, Jill is dead and Lewis is next up to bat. More importantly, however, we get to meet our new protagonist. This is Skye. She's a super popular music superstar who's just gone through a bit of a rough patch. Basically, she let her inner demons take the wheel during a substance-fueled rage that nearly ended her whole career. Lucky for her, the public never got to hear the worst of it. I mean, I'm not a PR guy, but I'm pretty sure deliberately causing a car crash that partially decapitates your celebrity boyfriend is one of those things that you can't bounce back from. At least not yet. Anyway, judging by her dance moves, it seems Skye's pretty much made a full physical recovery. Well, almost. She's still apparently dealing with a considerable amount of residual back pain, and since the doctors aren't willing to prescribe her anything stronger than Tylenol, given her history, she's decided to seek alternative means of acquiring medication. Now, it's not that I would ever condone such behavior, but I gotta believe somebody in her position would have some sniveling little toady that she could deploy to get this crap for her. After all, Skye's currently in the process of repairing her reputation in the wake of her previous downward spiral. The last thing she needs is someone recognizing her as she's going in and out of some shady apartments in the middle of the night. Or worse than that, some greedy sociopathic dealer blackmailing her with photos that he took in secret. But alas, it seems our girl is dead set on doing this herself, and with another flare-up coming on ahead of her big tour, she decides to hit up an old high school friend turned amateur pharmacist to re-up her supply of happy pills. Well, what's the worst that could happen?
What do you want from me?
Oh, looks like Lewis has been having kind of a rough week. Based on his reporting, the dude's been dealing with some pretty freaky shit lately. Although if he's been going through even a fraction of what Rose dealt with during the last movie, I'd say that's a bit of an understatement. Whatever the case, this is where Skye's involvement with the story should have come to an end, because we are leaving. Between nearly taking a katana to the throat and her friend's generally unhinged behavior, this whole encounter has disaster written all over it. And it certainly doesn't help that the guy starts snoofing up half of Bolivia while he's already bouncing off the walls. Seriously, there's absolutely no reason why anyone in their right mind would want to stick around this dump, back pain or not. And besides, it's not like this one guy is the only person that she could possibly score from in all of New York City. Hell, by now they're probably listed on Yelp. And yet, despite the growing possibility that Lewis is about to slice her in half like a sandwich, our girl decides to plop down on the couch with her back facing his last known position and tune out completely. All I can say is that 30 seconds from now, when your buddy comes out of his room with a hammer, you're really gonna wish you had taken this opportunity to leave. The dude's back there doing God knows what. Just get off the couch and calmly walk to the door. He probably won't even remember that you were there. But no. Instead, Skye chooses to stay. And almost immediately, Lewis makes her regret it. Well, at least he didn't have a sword this time. Although by the end of this thing, she'll probably wish he did. In any case, it seems this time around, Lewis is far more preoccupied with his imaginary friend. And considering it just slithered down his throat like a python, I'm pretty sure I know what's about to happen next. Now, look, when we did Smile 1, YouTube slapped us with an age restriction for going just a little too hard on the unalive stuff. So, here's a totally ad-safe puppet show to watch while we work through this next part. Okay, so right off the bat, Skye seems to think that the root cause of this whole episode is an excess of party favors. And given Lewis's overall lifestyle, that totally makes sense. However, the moment he picked up a 35-pound gym plate with a eating grin on his face, I'd abandon any and all notions of helping this nutcase and put a nerd-shaped hole right through his front door. Fortunately, it turns out he's just trying to squeeze in a late-night bicep workout. Although, I gotta say, the man's form needs some work. Dude straight up bouncing that thing off of his forehead. I mean, bro, there's explosiveness, and then there's recklessness. Oh, yep, he did it again. Well, at least his face was already numb from all the Splenda he was crushing. Might as well get a third one in then. You know, finish up the set. And his jaw fell off. Alright, so Lewis is now dead, and unbeknownst to our hero, she's gonna join him in a few days unless she can figure out what actually just happened. Problem is, there really's not too much that she can infer from the whole situation, at least not yet. Sure, the dude was clearly seeing something that she couldn't, but that tends to happen when you treat every day like it's Burning Man. And as for his method of departure, while it was certainly extreme, it's not really enough for her to assume that there's some kind of evil afoot. Honestly, given what Skye knows and doesn't know, I think her best option is to get EMS on the way and explain what she saw. Yes, the fact that she's currently surrounded by a small mountain of illegal substances wouldn't be a good look for her, especially if it gets out to the public. But as long as it's all in Lewis's apartment with no evidence to suggest that she brought it there, it seems unlikely that they would try and charge her for it. And besides, you know what really wouldn't look good for Skye? The cops rolling up outside one of her concerts once they read his texts and figure out she was the last person to see him alive. I mean, think about it. If Skye leaves Lewis to rot in there, it's only a matter of time before someone comes knocking, at which point it is gonna look highly suspicious that she chose to flee the scene without calling it in. Plus, at a minimum, she could also catch a misdemeanor for failing to report a death. And yes, I understand it's entirely possible that the cops might slap the cuffs on her right then and there, as her story, though true, could be rather difficult to believe. But worst come to worst, the evidence would absolutely be on her side. For starters, the medical examiner wouldn't find any signs of trauma to the back of Lewis's skull. That would almost certainly be present if Skye had smashed his head against the floor. At that point, they'd have to assume the dude just stood there and took it. But okay, maybe she just nailed him once in the face. Like, really, really hard. I mean, if she really wound up and got a full rotation in, it's possible that she could have hit him hard enough to kill him in one blow. But even then, I don't think you're ever going to convince a jury that a twig like Skye could swing a 35-pound plate hard enough to completely remove somebody's face in a single shot. Couple this with the toxicology report and the fact that only Lewis's fingerprints would be on the plate, and this whole thing probably wouldn't even go to trial. Either way, it's better to get the awkward conversation out of the way now and avoid doing anything that would make us look guilty. You know, like Googling whether the vomit she left at the scene contains DNA. It does, by the way. I Googled it. Also, no, we shouldn't lie and say he was like that when we got there, as between their initial confrontation and Lewis's bear hug, it is possible that some of Skye's hair might be present on his clothing. All we have to say is that we went over to hang out, Lewis seemed extremely upset, and then all of a sudden he went berserk and did what he did. If they want anything else, it's coming from our lawyer. However, while Skye wouldn't be aware of this at the time, it's possible that discussing the matter with investigators could help her figure out just how screwed she now is. You see, back when Rose was infected, both she and Joel were able to dig up a number of accounts in which someone was seen smiling right before punching out. This is what ultimately led them to both find out about the survivor and how he beat the curse. As a matter of fact, it was the police that sent over the initial info linking Rose's case to the one before. Granted, the circumstances were vastly different, and they hadn't recognized a pattern yet. But you really never know. Perhaps if Skye had chosen to go this route, things would have turned out better for her. Probably not, though. At any rate, Skye eventually returns to her apartment for what'll be the first of several sleepless nights. And while things are starting to get a little creepy, it's nowhere near enough to reasonably tip her off about the curse. I mean, there's been plenty of times where I've heard strange noises in my apartment while I was on the verge of passing out. And as for seeing this little gem in her dressing room mirror, that could easily be explained by the combination of acute post-traumatic stress and sleep deprivation. Now, that being said, it might be a good idea to reevaluate the extent of this massive comeback tour that she's kicking off in the next few days. Naturally, the record label will be majorly pissed if she tries to renegotiate, but they stand to lose a lot more money if she's forced to cancel the tour altogether upon suffering a massive nervous breakdown. After all, even discounting the whole Lewis thing, Skye's already been through quite a bit, and between dealing with her past and the stress of constant rehearsals, it's easy to see how things could quickly become overwhelming, not to mention the fact that she also has to deal with stuff like this.
Dude, get the
Yeah, can we vet these people a bit more before bringing them up for pictures? Maybe screen for any open sores or general insanity. However, what's even more surprising is that old Flaky wasn't even the creepiest one. Instead, that title belongs to the leering little girl that walks up next. And I gotta say, that look on her face seems awfully familiar. Now, maybe Skye was imagining this. Maybe she wasn't. Maybe the girl was just starstruck. It's really hard to say. Right now, I think her biggest cause for concern is the anonymous text message that she received asking whether she was at Lewis's place the night before. It seems to me that this thing is very much real, given it's on her phone all day. And if that's the case, then Skye might have some serious explaining to do in the very near future. Thing is, if it were the cops, I'd expect them to show up in person. So who does that leave? Well, a lot of people potentially. It could be some muckraking journalist looking to cash in on her misfortune, or even someone involved in Lewis's business operations trying to figure out who iced one of their distributors. At the very least, it could easily be one of Lewis's friends or family members wanting to know what happened. Whatever the case, Skye does the right thing by not responding, as she couldn't possibly know the person's intentions, and without realizing that she's been cursed, she would have no reason to start digging for information. That said, we now know that the cat is out of the bag, so it would probably be wise to contact both our attorney and a PR agency.
You're the unlucky charm, you hear me? Live with that!
Just in case this disaster goes viral. One thing's for sure though, I would not want to be by myself right now. Especially knowing that there's someone out there who might have it out for me. Unfortunately for Skye, her previous downward spiral saw her alienating herself from pretty much everyone, except for her overbearing mother/manager. And I gotta believe she's not the comforting type. Thankfully, Skye's former best friend, Gemma, is willing to look past all the unpleasantness of their last conversation and agrees to come over. So that's one small victory. Although, judging by the sound of glass breaking, it seems Skye wasn't alone after all. Yeah, full stop. The moment you have reason to believe that there's an unknown and potentially dangerous person hiding inside your home, you need to either flee immediately or arm yourself and hunker down in a secure location. Basically, whichever's closer. And since Skye currently has a clear line of sight on her front door, we're going with the former. Do not go to investigate. Do not follow the trail of soiled clothing towards your bedroom. And for the love of God, do not stare blankly at the bare-assed lunatic watching you from the darkness. Guess he really wants an autograph. As for Skye, running away is probably her only option, although it's still not a great one given she'll have to open the door. Lucky for her, it turns out the plot gods picked this exact moment for Gemma to arrive, at which point the stalker seemingly vanishes into thin air. So yeah, that was nice of him. Now the two of us can calmly run like hell down to the lobby and wait for the cops to show up. I mean, what exactly is the alternative? Grabbing some stupid modern art piece and skulking around your apartment like you're hunting a mouse? Dude's gonna pop around the corner and stab you in the eye socket before you even have a chance to scream. Sure, you got the 2-on-1, but you're armed with garbage. And if this guy's bold enough to wait spread eagle in your bedroom, he's probably not all that worried about taking on the double team. Strangely enough, Skye's little security sweep turns up nothing. Not even the dude's clothes. And you know what? I still say call the cops. It's better to be wrong and humiliated than wrong and dead. At least then if they find no sign of intrusion, you might be able to sleep soundly at night. You know, at a hotel, across town. However, what's even crazier to me is the way that Skye just shrugs it all off as an extremely vivid hallucination, as if that's not a serious problem in and of itself. For real though, if that's what she really thinks is going on, she needs to talk to a psychiatrist about this as soon as possible. Now, it's not going to make a difference regarding the curse itself, as undergoing therapy and taking antipsychotics like others have suggested simply won't work. We saw with Rose in Smile 1 that addressing and coming to terms with her trauma didn't stop the curse from taking ultimate control. And as for meds, the hallucinations aren't originating from Skye herself, but rather the external entity that has implanted itself within her mind. This means that any chemical alterations to Skye's mental state won't stop the curse from distorting reality. Meanwhile, the effects of the medication would render her far too zonked out to take any kind of meaningful action that could actually change her fate. All that aside, it's possible that having a professional tell her straight up that this isn't normal will help Skye realize this nightmare only started after her meeting with Lewis. Instead, it seems our girl is simply dead set on ignoring any and all signs that something might be horribly wrong, even after she imagined snapping her leg during rehearsal the next day. But no, clearly the grim, grinning ghoul that she saw up on stage right before collapsing in very real agony was just one of her backup dancers stepping out of place. Never mind the fact that her choreographer, who was watching the whole time, said everything looked fine, until she started flopping around like a soccer player. It doesn't stop there though, as she then goes on to see her assistant, Joshua, wearing the same fiendish smile while walking out of her freshly destroyed dressing room. Except that's not possible, because he was with Skye's mom literally the entire time. Now look, I'm not saying she should be able to look at all this and immediately determine that she needs to kill someone in front of a witness, but at this point, I think it's reasonable for her to make some connections between the hallucinations and what Lewis was going through right before the end. For starters, the dude was obviously seeing things that looked and felt real to him, just like she is. And then there's the smile. Granted, it's not a lot to go off of, but the way he was smiling before he did the deed was peculiar enough that it would likely stand out in the reportage of similar cases. Knowing this, I would try to search online for instances wherein someone was seen smiling right before switching off, just to see if anyone has established a cause. I mean, for all Skye knows right now, maybe Lewis contracted some kind of mind-altering infection that he then passed on to her while they were up close. It's not impossible. After all, in nature there are numerous parasites and fungi like Toxoplasma gondii and Ophiocordyceps unilateralis that cause their host to behave in self-destructive ways for the purpose of reproduction. However, at the very least, one thing Skye can readily observe right now is that the hallucinations are causing her to physically react in violent and unpredictable ways. For that reason alone, she needs to cancel the tour and any other public engagements until she can get this sorted out. Otherwise, she will almost certainly nuke whatever's left of her career from orbit. And hey, credit where it's due. Skye half-heartedly attempts to do this while screaming it out with her mom. Only problem is, she decided to leave out the part about seeing, hearing, and feeling as if it were really happening. If you tell somebody that you're not in the right headspace to perform, they're gonna tell you to get some fresh air and try goat yoga. But if you tell them that you're actively losing your ability to interpret reality, they'll probably get the idea. Unfortunately, it seems Skye herself hasn't even accepted the severity of her situation, so of course she's still gonna speak at the highly publicized charity event this evening. I'm sure that'll go just fine.
No, stay away from me.
Oof. Well, okay, I know Skye couldn't have possibly known this, but if she had hit that old bat just a little bit harder, it would have saved her quite a bit of trouble. Granted, yes, it would have also created a ton of new problems and probably destroyed her career, but at least she'd be alive. The only good news here is that the disaster hit hard enough for her to finally realize that she's got a major problem, and wouldn't you know it, Skye's secret admirer picked this exact moment to stop dropping breadcrumbs and actually give her something useful. Desperate to learn more about the situation, Skye agrees to meet the stranger at a local dive bar. It is here that our mysterious messenger, Morris, informs her about the curse and what she can expect. Apparently, he's been tracking its progress ever since his brother swallowed a crowbar. This ultimately led him to Lewis's apartment, where he found the man's mangled remains and Skye's messages on his cell phone. The way he sees it, the only way to stop the curse, or demon, or whatever the hell this thing is to kill the host before they can pass it on the old-fashioned way. That's right. He wants to kill Skye, but only just technically, you see. It turns out the guy is an ER nurse, and because of this, he believes that he can safely stop our hero's heart long enough to purge the parasite before bringing her back from the brink. Now, there's just one problem with this particular brand of madness this guy is spewing. You're not dead just because your heart stopped beating. Sure, some might call you clinically dead, but that just means that you've lost all circulation. No, you're only dead once you're dead. For, you see, death is not some arbitrary line in the sand that you can step back across. Death is the final, total, and irreversible cessation of all life in a once living creature. That means that if your heart stops on the operating table and the doctors manage to restart it, then you didn't actually die at all. Now, the medical staff might have declared you dead at one point, but that's only because they were pretty sure that you were gone for good. And if something occurred that caused you to resuscitate, all it means is that they were mistaken. Hell, even if you subscribe to the whole flatline equals death model portrayed in fiction, this guy's plan still doesn't make any sense. There's been countless cases in which somebody's heart temporarily stopped beating while their mind remained active, leading to visions of things that many interpret as signs of an afterlife. Well, okay, where does this thing live? Inside your mind. So if your mind remains active, then why would it go away? Furthermore, it's clear that he intends to restart Skye's heart before she experiences brain death, which is what many would describe as the point wherein somebody is truly dead. So, if the whole idea is to bring Skye back before brain death occurs, and the mind is in the brain, and the demon is in the mind, then again, there's no reasonable way this should actually work. No, Skye is absolutely right to try and get away from this wacko, because the only way that his plan can realistically work is if he just kills her and calls it a day.
It never gets any easier!
I mean, how can she even be sure that that's not what he's planning to do anyway? Oh yeah, the only way I could stop the demon curse thing is to kill you, but don't worry, I'll totally bring you back from the dead. Pinky swear, get out of here. Also, during the meeting, the dude mentioned that Skye doesn't have much time left before the thing takes total control over her actions, which naturally raises the question of why it took him 3 whole days to send a coherent text message. Sure, I could see how he might not want to scare her into blocking him right off the bat, but starting with something as cryptic as, "Were you in Louis Frigoli's apartment last night?" could easily have crossed that line. Instead, as soon as he realized Skye was it, he should have sent her something like this. "Skye, I'm a friend of Louis. I know he fully demonetized himself right in front of you. If you're seeing and hearing things that aren't there," which she already was by the time he first messaged, "then you're in serious danger. This is what Louis was posting online before you saw him." He would then attach the video that he sent of Louis flipping out and conclude with a strong call to action. Something like, "Please call me as soon as you get this." My point is that if Morris had spent as much time as he claimed researching the chain, he would know that it doesn't take more than a couple days before the host is loopier than a bowl of Cheerios, at which point it'll be nearly impossible to communicate with them or convince them to act in any meaningful way. This means that the only way that you'll have any chance of stopping the demon is if you get their attention immediately. In any case, all that matters now is that we know enough about the situation to start working backwards in the hopes of finding any breaks in the chain. I mean, if Rose and Joel could do this, Skye and Morris could too, right? Well, maybe. It wasn't explicitly stated in the first movie whether Joel's police access is what allowed him to find out about the survivor. But either way, it's worth a shot. As for why Skye would even think to try this, what other choice does she have? Right now, her only known options are die, or pretend to die, and then die because that didn't work. So she might as well lean on Morris for everything that he knows about the current chain. If she gets lucky and learns about the survivor, it should be fairly easy for her to figure out what he did right. From there, all she has to do is mask up and nail some poor unsuspecting rando in a convenience store while the cashier's watching. After all, plenty of terrible things go unsolved in New York City, and with no known ties to the target, this could easily be one of them. However, if Skye is feeling poetic, she could browse her DMs until she finds a couple potential stalkers delusional enough to leave their contact info. She would then buy a burner phone, contact the individuals, and invite 2 of them to a predetermined location. I would try altering my appearance through the use of heavy makeup and baggy clothing before seeking out a motel that accepts cash. Once the meeting spot is locked down, Skye would instruct the creepazoids to arrive an hour or so apart from one another, thereby giving her time to subdue the first one before moving on to the next. Of course, given this is New York City, acquiring firearms on such short notice could prove difficult, although it's certainly not impossible. That said, a large knife, rope, duct tape, goggles, gloves, face masks, and pepper spray could all be easily obtained on her way to the meetup location, and should prove reasonably effective, so long as she chooses her marks carefully. No hulking gym bros, no gun guys, no martial arts practitioners, just to name a few. With everything in place, she'll simply wait on the first one to arrive, bag him, wait on the second, bag him, and then ask them both to pick a number between 1 and 1,000. Demon purged. Now, this is a pretty hasty plan, and there's a number of ways in which it could go wrong. For example, one of the creepers Skye draws in could show up with a group intent on launching an ambush of their own, and obviously, there's the possibility that no one falls for her plan in the first place. But at least in the latter case, she could always fall back on plan A. Unfortunately, Skye decides she's had enough of all the demon talk, and instead comes up with a different plan. By the looks of it, our hero seems to think that she can pack up and leave fast enough to outrun her own mind. So I guess we'll see how that goes. What she never could have expected is that her loyal team of backup dancers would be planning a surprise party to help her cheer up, and they even brought her something to eat. No! Surprise! Well, that's the end of her. I mean, we all know what happens after the demon pulls a Hugo Stieglitz. Then again, maybe not. Sometime later, Skye wakes up in a bed at a high-end private hospital. According to her mother, she was found unconscious in her apartment, apparently having suffered a mild concussion after fainting and bouncing her head off the floor. But on the positive side, now Skye gets to spend a whole day lying horizontal in someone else's deathbed. After all, she needs to be well rested by the time of tomorrow's pre-show. Or else, what'll become of the tour? Yes, it seems that despite brutally butchering her speech at the charity gala and nearly killing a senior citizen shortly thereafter, Skye's record label still intends to throw her out on stage. What's even more surprising is that her mom is totally okay with this. Moreover, the second Skye dares to suggest calling off the show, old mommy dearest comes completely unglued. Literally to the point that she's forced to visit the nearby mirror and to begin furiously reapplying her makeup. Yeah, I gotta say, that's quite a lot of blush, Miss Riley. Also, it looks like you might have popped out one of your eyeballs. But hang on, wait, the demon is in Skye's head, not her mom's, which means this couldn't possibly be happening right now. Okay, phew. For a second there, I thought they were tossing us a curveball. Nah, turns out it was just Skye losing control and violently slashing her mother to pieces. Seriously though, this is, by all accounts, very bad. And the way Skye sees it, things will get a whole lot worse if she doesn't make her way to Morris. First things first though, she needs to find a way out of the hospital. Lucky for her, Joshua left a large hooded sweatshirt that she can use to hide the bloodstains on her hospital gown. Well, most of them anyway. Honestly, she might as well ditch the gown altogether. The hoodie by itself doesn't seem long enough to fully cover her down below, but she could probably find a towel in the bathroom to wrap around her waist. Either way, there's not much point in covering up when anyone with eyes can clearly see 10 inches of blood-soaked fabric dangling out in front of her. As for what to do next, it turns out we can't simply walk out the front door, as there's an armed guard who might try and stop us. Now, I say might because it's unclear what the full extent of Skye's stay is. In New York, a hospital can hold someone for 48 hours if a psychiatrist determines that they have a mental illness that makes them a threat to themselves or others. Thing is, Skye was unconscious this whole time. So, unless a decision could be made based on the testimony of her mother, they have no legal right to keep her there. Of course, with Skye being visibly covered in blood, that changes things. As the moment she's seen approaching the exit, she'll likely be swarmed by nurses and orderlies frantically trying to assess her condition. Knowing this, I would try pulling a fire alarm to create a distraction. It won't cause a total evacuation, as hospitals tend to employ fire doors and a more defend-in-place type approach until the fire gets out of control. But it could get the rent-a-cop looking the other way long enough for us to make our escape. Outside of that, she could also try finding an emergency exit, although that would greatly increase the risk of her bumping into somebody that notices all the blood. Ultimately, that's exactly what happens. But as we come to find out, Skye ain't about to go quietly.
Hey, get away from me!
Bro, it's called a level 3 retention holster. I can't wait to see the look on your boss's face when you tell him an escaped patient who just wasted her own mother took your gun and then proceeded to steal a car with it. That said, I don't see her getting very far, as she just pulled 2 stars in a city with some of the worst traffic in the United States. As a matter of fact, she almost didn't even make it down the block, as according to her friend Gemma, Skye doesn't even know how to drive. Oh yeah, Gemma's here now. She conveniently appeared outside the hospital with coffee right as Skye was running out, and now she's just agreed to commit grand theft auto alongside someone she hadn't spoke to in over a year. What a great friend. So anyway, now that we have a getaway driver, I guess, we can reach out to Morris and arrange a meeting. However, there is one thing that we should probably address beforehand. How can we be sure that the dude was ever even real in the first place? Honestly, with how often Skye's been hallucinating, I don't think it's possible for her to be 100% sure about anything anymore. But I guess it couldn't hurt to check the picture that she snapped of Morris last night, just in case he turned out to be a weirdo. If the picture's empty or doesn't exist, then we know she just imagined it. And at that point, she's probably toast. Otherwise, she could also try looking up her tags on social media to check whether videos or pictures of them together are popping up online. Back at the bar, we saw a bunch of fans approach her with their phones out, and I gotta believe most of them were already recording. What do I think? I think Morris is, or at least was, real. As if the smile demon is sentient, it wouldn't make sense for it to explain itself and its potential weaknesses to a current host. But that's just a theory. So, yeah, guess we'll find out when we get there. That is, if we get there. As a sudden phone call reveals Skye isn't exactly in good company right now. It's Gemma, and according to her, they haven't spoken once since their last falling out. And you know what? Fine. That totally tracks, given everything else we've seen. My only question is, who the hell's driving right now?
Oh, it's okay. It's on cruise control.
You're not in control! I am!
Do you feel in control? Because it looks to me like that's not the case. Also, we've heard that before on this channel, and I'm not gonna lie to you all. It didn't turn out great. But Skye seems to think that she's got this one in the bag. And with renewed confidence in both herself and her driving abilities, she follows her GPS to the rundown old Pizza Hut that Morris secured for the operation. Once inside, he explains that he's going to inject her in the jugular with a syringe full of garbage that's supposed to stop her heart. Then, after 8 minutes, which he has somehow deemed long enough to remove the demon, he'll inject her in the heart with adrenaline and begin CPR. Now, as for why they're in a Pizza Hut freezer, Morris says it's to prevent necrosis from causing brain damage. But if you ask me, I think it's because of what he said about the freezer door locking automatically. This dude's about to give you a lethal injection and then lock your ass inside an abandoned building. This was a trap. You are now screwed. Get rotated. And sure enough, Nurse Colin conveniently remembers that he needs to go grab something from outside, at which point things start getting freakier by the second. Oh, and would you look at that? Right as Skye's about to escape from the evil version of herself, the freezer door slams shut right in her face. Did I call it? Did I call it or what? Not to worry though, because just as Skye established back on the road, she is the one in control right now. I mean, isn't it obvious? And so, as our hero stares down the grotesque embodiment of her unresolved trauma, she picks up the syringe full of garbage and prepares to administer. However, just before she can press the plunger and end this nightmare once and for all, the demon politely informs her that literally none of this is actually real. That's right. At some point, Skye dropped into autopilot and never woke up. Which brings us to the stage at her first stop on the tour, Amidst the legions of fans eagerly awaiting the show, we see Skye's mom totally unharmed. But most importantly, we see Skye's evil twin staring back at her with a familiar smile. And you know what that means. Guess there won't be an encore. And with that, the smiling demon claims yet another life, all while potentially infecting thousands of other people in the process. So, in the end, Skye didn't make it out alive, and it's difficult to say definitively whether any of our strategies could have changed that. Probably not. After all, she might have been able to trace the chain back to the survivor after meeting Morris, but by then she was pretty far gone, and who can say whether she wasn't already under the demon's complete control? Let's explore whether it's even possible to get rid of this thing for good under even the most ideal conditions. We know the demon can be passed on to another person if they witness a traumatic death. More specifically, the hosts, or that of a sacrificial third party. Now, according to Morris, who had exactly zero evidence to support this conjecture, we're basically dealing with some kind of parasite, meaning that if the host is killed before it can spread, the demon dies with them. So, how do we confirm this? Well, let's say you were infected, but you had access to a controlled environment and an unlimited amount of willing human test subjects. Now, you could try passing it on to subject 1 by sacrificing someone else, and then leaving said subject to suffocate in an impenetrable vault of some kind. This way, you wouldn't be witnessing the subject 1's death, so you wouldn't necessarily get some kind of tag-back effect in which the trauma of their demise passes it back to you. Problem is, how could we be sure that it's really gone? I mean, for all we know, it will simply revert back to the last living person who had it. And if that's you, you might not find out about it until it's too late. Sure, no one has supposedly lasted longer than 7 days after being infected, but the way the demon plays with your mind, it could probably make 7 days feel like 7 years. So, okay, we need to create some kind of buffer between ourselves and the last known infected. To that end, we'll use a sacrifice to pass it on to Subject 1. Subject 1 will then be instructed to pass it on to Subject 2 using another sacrifice, and then Subject 2 will pass it on to Subject 3 the exact same way. At this point, Subject 3 will be placed in the vault, whereas Subject 2 will be placed in a properly ventilated room with food and water and another volunteer. During this time, we will have someone else monitor Subject 2's vitals remotely for no fewer than 8 days. This is because Subject 3 will check out sometime on day 1. So, if after 7 more days, Subject 2 is still alive, then we can reasonably conclude that the demon does not travel backwards. On the other hand, if Subject 2 punches out in front of the volunteer, we know that it does, at which time we will release Subject 1 back into civilization while we f*** off to the middle of nowhere. Here's another problem though. Even if we determine that the demon cannot travel backwards up the chain, how would we know that it didn't just jump into a random traumatized person somewhere else in the world? It's not like we can monitor the entire planet. I mean, maybe we wind up hearing about another chain popping up somewhere else, but otherwise, it'd be impossible to rule this out completely. Alright, maybe that's a stretch, but the simple fact is, we currently don't have enough information about the demon or what it's capable of to know how to kill it. What's more, even if Morris is correct, I don't think the demon would allow its host to create a situation where that could happen. Just think about it. It's inside your mind. It knows what you're gonna do as soon as you do. This means that if the host decides to demonetize himself because the hallucinations are too intense, the demon will intervene and stop him, just like it would stop somebody who was planning to pass it on to someone else and then take that person out. And just like it stopped Skye from letting Morris put her under. Just about the only way I could see something like this working, assuming it's possible at all, is by a complete and total accident, like a building collapse. Or if somebody like Morris took the host out without ever making contact with them in the first place. And even then, depending on how he went about it, who's to say the demon wouldn't just jump into him? After all, he would be a witness to their traumatic death. Whatever the case, there's just too many unknowns and unknown unknowns for anyone to say that they've got this whole thing figured out. And for that reason, I think Smile 2 remains unbeaten. Moral of the story: Nerd Explains does not condone any of the actions portrayed or discussed in this video. All characters and events described are complete works of fiction, and any resemblance to real persons living or dead is purely coincidental. Oh, also, if you're rich, hire a lackey.